Is there anybody in the room who does not like to be consoled every now and again? Okay, good. Nobody. So everybody loves to be loved, right? Everybody loves to be consoled, to be comforted. What if you could do that for yourself? You're always with yourself. Your partner may not always be by your side, and more than half of the time that they are, they probably don't feel like consoling you. What if you could console yourself? Not as a temporary fix, not as a shot, but as a really deep, constant sense of well-being, a constant sense of self-love. Anybody who would not desire that? Raise your hand. No? Okay, good. Because usually that's all that's necessary for healing to take place. We're all, to some degree, into the healing business. If you're in pain, you try to console the pain. If you're emotional pain, you try to console the emotional pain through all kinds of means. But what if you had this one mean, at least for all your emotional pains, for all your psychological distortions, ideas, beliefs? Anybody ever lonely? No one? Wow. Nobody ever lonely? Okay, good. Thanks for your honesty. Half of the people. That aloneness, not so much the loneliness, but the aloneness, without the story of loneliness, just the being alone. Because loneliness, what is loneliness? It's simply being without anybody else being around you. Or sometimes you're surrounded by lots of people and you still feel lonely. But loneliness minus the story of you is simple, non-dual aloneness. If you don't label the loneliness lonely for a moment, you just relax completely all mental abstractions, all mental elaborations and descriptions. What shines forth naturally when you relax thinking, I'm lonely, or any other thought? What remains? Your aloneness. And that aloneness is love. Because the aloneness doesn't need, the aloneness is. So self-love, comforting yourself or consoling yourself in all kinds of circumstances, in all forms of loneliness, throughout all forms of suffering. Self-love or consoling yourself. What's that experience like? Alright, do you have any experience with that? What it's like to love yourself? Because I use that phrase quite a bit, love yourself, but do you really know what I mean by love yourself? Do you really know what I mean by love yourself? What if self-love is not just a thought? It's not just a new way of thinking. It's not just the thought, going from the thought, I'm lonely, I'm miserable, I'm unworthy, to the thought, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, and all that kind of stuff. It can be helpful, it can be a trigger to remember. But the real self-love that lasts, that's not a word, that's not an idea, is the presence that already is before you turn it into anything. Before you say what something is, it's nothing yet, nothing in particular. Before you give it a name, any appearance within consciousness, in other words, any occurrence of life, is life, and life is love. And I know that sounds cheesy and that sounds cliche, that life is love. La 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 la, sure. So many teachers out there that say it's all love. Where's the love? I can't feel the love. I can't see the love. Is this love? Is that love? So many problems. I'm so alone. Where's the love? Sure, I can recognize awareness, but where's the love? I don't feel fulfilled. The quality of love, it's like frying a chicken. It takes a while. It's like, in the oven. You just sit there and you're waiting for it. You can see that it's a chicken, but it doesn't have that flavor yet. It's not ready yet. Sometimes, instantaneously or spontaneously, people experience love. Just this causeless self-love. Not self in reference to any idea or thought about themselves or about other people, loving them or liking them. But the self-love which is without other. Just love, loving itself. Usually that takes a little while, a little time to marinate within yourself. So the moment you stop labeling your experience, you'll start to notice a difference already. You'll start to notice that you're going from story to isness. Does that make sense, the word isness? Like my hand is. It's very simple. It's not a hand until I call it a hand. Before I call it a hand, what stands out to me is the isness of the colors, the isness of the shape, the isness of the weight, the sense. It's not yet a hand. Of course, I understand that we call it a hand. But before you label anything, including your emotions, including your self-torture, before you label it anything, it shines as its isness. Its isness shines. Its color, its sense, its visceral sense, its emoting. Even the descriptions about the appearances that turn the isness into things, even that still is. Even that shines. Even the descriptions and the stories themselves, when we can look at them and not be them, but look at them, we can appreciate the isness within the words of the story, within the description of the mind. We can see that the mind itself, thought itself, distraction itself, is perfectly here, now, part of this inseparable field of consciousness. So that's why we say everything is love, because everything is love. We say it because it's true. It's just a sentence. The sentence isn't true. But what we're pointing at has a validity, has a truth to it that can be discovered. So when I say love yourself, what am I asking you to do, if anything? I don't even know. Let me think about that. So free from conditions, free from too much head, sinking into the heart. But then still, like, I love your answer, but what am I really asking you to do? When I say love yourself, what is that? How do you do that? That's a beautiful description. That's a beautiful symbol. Less head, more heart, less logic, more causelessness. But what am I asking you to do? How to love yourself?
Just to allow this business. Just to allow whatever's here.
And then the question arises, how do I allow what is? So beautiful, that's getting very, very close. But then still, what am I asking you to actually do? How do you allow what is? What's actually happening when you experience what you call allowance, going from stress or from self-sabotage or from self-judgment to self-love or to acceptance or to allowance? What's actually happening? What are you actually doing?
Letting go.
Letting go. But even that, what is that?
Moving beyond personal identity.
So those are all beautiful descriptions of how we describe what's happening, but what's actually happening? By what mechanism does the experience change from conflict to love? Total acceptance. So how do we accept? Just be? How do we just be?
For me, there's something in noticing.
There's a noticing. So that's coming very, very close. As close as you're going to get, probably. So before, yeah? He's going to try to beat you to it. Realizing that. So what's at the ground, what's at the basis, and your answer was very close, what's at the basis of all of these symbols? Because every one of you named one symbol that seems to work for you, or one description, one sort of poetic description of what seems to shift in your experience when you're going from conflict to love, or allowance, or love. There you go. So there's a shift in awareness. It's not so much you're doing, there's a shift in awareness that then causes you to have a different experience with the beautiful poetry attached to it, or not. So pointers, what pointers do, they're not doing anything, you see? Like, you're not doing anything, that's what I mean. Like, when I'm pointing to something, when I'm pointing to self-love, when I'm using one of those beautiful poetic sentences all of you just shared, what happens is we're just taking it for granted, which is good. I mean, we're taking the fact that awareness or attention has the ability to change according to where it's directed. So what these meetings are all about is, for me in this case being one of the facilitators, we're all facilitators here for ourselves as well, but taking me as an example, facilitating a group like this, what am I doing through words? What's actually happening? You're all sitting in your chair, you're hardly moving a muscle, you're not doing anything. Maybe you're thinking a little bit here and there, but you're not actively doing anything per se, you're just sitting here physically listening. So what's actually happening? Throughout the course of this hour and a half, you will have a wildly different palette of experiencing. Your experience changes constantly. It's like having a clean canvas in front of you and constantly painting over it new colors. Constantly. It's never the same. Every second your experience changes. Now part of that is influenced by the words I speak. Again, it's not in any of the words. See what happens behind the scenes for yourself. See what happens when the shift occurs. It's a shift in awareness that happens. It's a shift in attention. A shift in attention is what brings about any change in experience. It's not any doing per se, although the doing follows the change in experience to be a reflection of your present experience. Because whatever we're doing is always a result, flows directly from however we're being. Doing follows being, and being follows attention. Your being, obviously you're always here and in some form, but the form that you're being in, or the frequency of consciousness that you're experiencing, depends on the shift in attention that preceded it. So this whole game of the human life, the human experience, all it really is a play of attention. Through attention, anything is attainable. Any doing, any result, any inner experience. Obviously, that's what we're doing all the time, every single day. As soon as our attention shifts, our experience shifts. We come across a sign on the street and it reminds us of something that happened a year ago that we didn't like, and beautiful, well, these deers, or not beautiful, whatever you want to call it. What happened? Nothing happened. You're still driving your car. You were happy a second ago. But you read a sign that shifted your attention to a particular frequency that then became activated. Whoop. You didn't do anything. The sign didn't do anything. The sign is just isness. You, your body, is just isness. The car you're driving is just isness. The colors you're seeing, the turning of your head is just isness. But your attention, your way of thinking, the wavelength that you're aware of changes. And so as the wavelength that you're noticing changes from one to the other, which we call a shift in your state of being, or a shift in consciousness, or a shift in frequency, that's all that ever changes your experience. If you'd stay stable, if you'd stay at one frequency, now I'm not suggesting this, but just as an example to illustrate the point, if you'd stay at one frequency of being, your car can crash, your family can die in front of your eyes, the love of your life can suddenly show up, or leave you, or whatever, and it wouldn't change a thing. So the experience is always depending upon where your attention is. Just to be aware of that is helpful. So to return to the original point, what is self-love? How does it come about? And I always say it doesn't come about because it's already here. But that's what we start to notice. We start to notice the intrinsic nature of things, of presence, of your own isness. The intrinsic nature of existence is love. Love is just a word, but let's call it love. So how does it feel? How does it feel at the innermost core? Like love. That's why it's a beautiful word for it. That's why it's so overused. That's why Rumi speaks of nothing else. Because he's a drunkard who's completely lost in isness. So the love that may not be apparent immediately upon recognition of the natural state will come about more and more and more. Again, it's like marinating. The love quality, the quality that sort of sucks your personality into itself, that sucks your demands, your opinions into itself and softens all of that and dissolves some of it. That love that then starts to shine through because you become less solid. The idea of you becomes less solid, and so you become more transparent to the isness of love that's already this moment. And then you'll find yourself talking about love, which maybe at one point a year ago you despised. I can't hear that word anymore. And then you find yourself, love, sweet. So self-love, to come back to the sort of practical side of it, the practical side of loving yourself, of consoling yourself whenever you're in a negative state of being, whenever you're hurting, whenever you're suffering, whenever you feel alone and lost and abandoned and victimized and all of that human nonsense, which is beautifully nonsensical. Nonsense doesn't make sense. Nonsense. We can all choose to experience it, and we do on a daily basis, usually. And it's beautiful. It's that sweetness too. It's that love too. So what if you can discover the love in it, and then allow the love quality to outshine the personal quality? It's like standing in front of a mirror of a jewelry shop, looking into the window. You're standing outside, looking from the outside in, and you're seeing this beautiful piece of jewelry on a pedestal. It's like $7,000, and you're like mesmerized by the shape, by the story of it, you know, and there's a little description there, like who made it and what it's made of and where the inspiration came from. There's this whole history behind it. So there's this story there behind the window, there's this story. But within the same space there's also your own reflection in the window. It's both there, same space, but it's both there. This has gone unrecognized because we were so mesmerized by the story. So obviously it doesn't feel very shocking if just for a moment we let go of that. But the more we start to relax our focus, the more we start to see ourselves, to the point where even though it's the same space, you're no longer even noticing the jewelry. So we emphasize the love over the personal quality of it. That doesn't mean denial, doesn't mean overriding it with another story that says, oh, let's emphasize love. No, it's just an allowance. It's allowing your awareness to sort of, your attention to sort of shift to the noticing that it's already there. It's already infused into life. God already infused it into the fabric, into the love of existence. Why? Because it exists. Since it exists, it's already there. It's already allowed. It's already inclusive. It's already part of you, whether you like it or not. Not liking it is already allowed by life as it is. It's already infused into life as it is. You're already not liking what's appearing, even though it's already part of the unity of all things. And you may not even like the fact that it's already part of everything else. You may not even like the unity part of it. That too is already part of the unity. So we're a little bit stuck. We're just running after the facts here. That's what satsang is. Getting our facts straight. It's already here. We're just playing catch up. So the less we focus on the descriptions, on the stories, the more we simply say, okay, wait a minute, stop. Stop. Oh, but that's not self-love. Stop. Okay. What remains? Love is what remains when you stop. That's when attention naturally shifts, because it has nothing else to be aware of anymore, because you're not feeding it a new projection. So it doesn't get lost, it doesn't get sucked up in the new movie. For a moment, there's just the screen. And you realize again you're in the theater. The movie wasn't real. I'm here, I can walk out any second. That story doesn't actually belong to me. It's just another story.